while I know we're all connecting and eating, of course, I would like to just now invite the next panel so that we can get that started as we enjoy our meals. So this time we're focusing on energizing Africa's future, powering progress while embracing green growth. And our moderator for this will be Brad Rohrs. So Brad, if you don't mind, thank you very much for joining us. But as you can see, most people are occupied, so the applause may not be as generous as it should be. But for those who can, please, can you put your hands together for Brad as he comes to the stage? Thank you very much. We also have Dr. Uche Isiogo, the CEO of Energy and Emerging Infrastructure Capital. Do we have Dr. Uche here? He is? Okay. Okay, there he is. Okay, please, a round of applause for Dr. Uche. Thank you. Mr. Yogesh Srivastava is the CEO of Kekno-Build. Oh, right. We met earlier. He has a very interesting story to tell. Thank you so much for joining us, sir. We also have Mr. Walid Kareb Al-Falahi. He's the CEO of the CEO Dubai Consultancy and UAE Trade Center.
My audience.
Do we have him here? Okay, I guess not. Aminu Mortala Nyako is the Managing Director, Sebore International Farms. A round of applause for him, please. And we also have Dr. Hamilton Karanda Martin, who is the founder, Serengeti Hemp Holdings. Here he is. All right, I will now yield this stage to Brad.
Hello.
So do you want to sit over here so we can have everybody all in a line? Are you? That might work a little better, so I can just look one side. Cool. Hi. Guys, what an amazing event. Thank you, everybody, for coming out here tonight. We're so proud and happy to see such a collection of people, great talent, people who genuinely care, not just about investing, making a lot of money, but doing something that is going to be bigger than themselves, which is ensuring the prosperity of Africa through sustainability. And we've got today three of the people who are really pioneering that, and I'm very humbled to be sharing the stage with these three businessmen. So I want to introduce them. I'm going to try and keep this in a proper order here. So this is Mr. Nyako. He is doing sustainable farming in Nigeria. We have Dr. Isiago, who is in solar panels, and then we have Mr. Yogesh, who is in logistical development software for big-time construction. So, guys, if you stuck around for this, you're in for an absolute treat. These are fantastic people, and I want to have them introduce themselves properly, better than I could. So let's start from right here. Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me. My name is Aminu Murtala Nyako, and I'm the MD CEO of Sebore International Farms. It's a privately held export processing zone in northern Nigeria, and we currently process milk into dairy products in the northeast.
Hi everyone, my name is Dr. Uche Isiogo. I run a firm called Energy. Energy is a renewable energy investment company. We're based here in the US, in Florida, also based in Nigeria. I've got both teams on both continents. We invest in solar, battery energy storage projects for businesses. We give businesses this infrastructure over the long term, and we get paid over 20 years or so, basically what we call power purchase agreements that allow them to get expensive infrastructure that we finance. So So we build, own, operate these energy utilities that power businesses with clean energy and help the economy grow more sustainably. Thank you.
Well, Africa is building one of the largest energy projects in West Africa, Nigeria LNG Train 7, a $9 billion job. And when they want to make sure every drawing, every material, every pipe, every steel, and the work that is being done at site is actually being done as they claim it to be, my company, TechnoBuild, is providing the digital execution platform. And that is our vision to help the world build better in a safe, smart, and sustainable manner. And I come from Calgary, Canada, with over 30-plus years of experience in heavy engineering and construction projects. And world needs clean energy, better infrastructure, and sustainable societies. But my passion here is Africa doesn't need to go the same route that everybody else did. The power of digital technology can enable you to get there faster, because when it comes to sustainability, you already have it ingrained in you. And so when you go out to build again, build things sustainably. That's what I'm here to share about. Thank you.
And we have a fourth panelist, Karanda Martin, who I'm going to let introduce himself right now.
Good evening. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm Liberian, and I'm based in New York, and I'm all over Africa. I primarily focus on industrial agriculture, and we're currently putting an alliance together between Liberia and Ghana with 50,000 women for agriculture, and I'm here to help out.
The first question I'm going to have for the panelists is that the world has increasing energy needs. So I want to ask you guys, what role is Africa going to play in the next 20 years for world energy production to meet these world energy needs? And can they stay green doing so? So, Mr. Martin, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think that's a very important question, and I think that it's quite beautiful to see you all in this room. The strategic position Africa pulls is that it has a fantastic landscape in terms of the vegetative position it holds, in terms of carbon sequestration, carbon finance, the convergence of vegetative regenerative agriculture that facilitates biodiesel, biocrude, energy, gas, and all the facilitations we need for the future. I believe that if we play our cards right, it's no longer about the position to depend upon the institutional finance infrastructure, nor is it about facilitating the blame game, but rather get out there, take a risk, take chances, because Africa is the future. Currently, we see it happening fast, very quickly in terms of the supply chain. The Ukraine war played a pinnacle role in that, and it facilitated Africa to take a strong position in agriculture, also in manufacturing, and the future is great. So believe in Africa, it will feed the world.
And what are your guys' thoughts? Because a lot of you guys down there, you're actually building some of this, the solar infrastructure, the green, the renewable energy. Is this actually realistic? Can we be green and still export energy from Africa and support the world economy? What are your guys' thoughts?
I'll jump in. Absolutely, we can. We need to move from an Africa of basically importing everything to exporting to the world, first and foremost. So, you know, we produce a lot of raw materials. We see what's going on with oil and gas. We extract that, we export it, and then we import that back as petrol or diesel. You know, that's not right, right? So essentially, you're selling something for $5 and then buying it back for $20, right? So that's not sustainable. So we need to curb that for the new economy, the new energy transition with clean energy, right? Where we have solar, battery energy storage, we're rich in rare earth minerals. We need to start doing value addition and doing production of battery storage. How do we get there? I mean, not in one day, right? We're not going to start producing batteries in one day to power the power grid, but we start small. We look at the value chain, and then we forward integrate. And what that looks like is, you know, first and foremost, we start doing the processing of these rare earth materials. and then we start forward integrating to producing the cells, producing the modules, and then you start actually manufacturing. So we need to start doing that, and that also impacts solar as well, right? Solar has a lot of minerals that we have in Africa. We need to start using that to start manufacturing. So that's how we start the transition into supplying the world with value additive products and services. Secondly, we know that solar is low cost of energy compared to like other sources. We need to start doing more. We have a lot of hydro, have a lot of gas power, a lot of gas flaring that's happening in Nigeria. We need to make that more productive and use that into more productive sources like gas power. So there's a role for different types of technology, not just solar, not just wind, but different technologies that gives us a more diverse energy mix that makes us a more prosperous continent. That's where we need to go.
Great, thank you.
Brad, I'd like to add.
Yeah, yes.
I think you all are noting perhaps that there is a pivot happening where African continent is going to be the source of cleaner energy. And as that is happening, it is really important that, as you rightly said, that it's not about just extracting and exporting, but if you could build with what you got in your own country and utilize it. I mean, LNG, we are getting involved in the Mozambique LNG project, right? Nigeria LNG project, and many more. It's a cleaner source of energy. But I think what's important is the location from where these are being extracted, they themselves should be utilizing the energy that is being provided to the rest of the world. So it shouldn't be that you are burning coal and powering in a difficult way, whereas the rest of the world is just taking what you got. So I really urge for the people of the nation to build something with what you already got and build it sustainably and short-circuit the route to go through megacities, problems of megacities, because digital tech does help that you don't all have to now all converge into a big metropolis like New York, crowded all over, then only you can do something. You can still be distributed in your villages, townships, and contribute towards your development. And that way there's less impact to your own countries.
Okay, I think I'm going to answer this question in a quite a different way. So I'm Nigerian, I live in Nigeria. And I think getting a perspective from someone that is looking at it from the continent out is kind of important for you to understand. When you talk about transition, importantly, you need to understand is where are you coming from and where do you intend to go to? If you do not understand where the continent is and where it hopes to go to, then energy transition in itself becomes a very difficult concept to understand and to appreciate, and then to formulate to get the kind of impact you're looking at. You see, too many things are happening in the continent right now. I know in the previous panels they spoke about the political transitions happening in terms of the dissatisfaction young people are having. You need to understand that in the sense of the technology side, you're looking at very decentralized systems of financial payments that are coming into Africa in a very major way. And now you're looking at energy transitions. The honest truth here is that other societies are moving into renewables for very different reasons, while Africa has to move into renewables in a very major way. You see, I don't know if any of you have looked at the grid of Africa, of what the actual electric grid of Africa looks like. The reason why previous projects find it difficult to take root, such as the solar panels across the Sahara, even if you put panels in the Sahara, how do you evacuate that power? There's no TCN, or how do I put it, there's no grid connection in the Sahara for you to evacuate power. What you need to realize, and what everyone in the diaspora needs to realize, is that there is no legacy energy system currently in Africa. And for you to build out a legacy energy system like you have in Western societies, it's going to cost a lot of capital to be able to move power. The only innovation that has happened in the past decades that can allow Africa to energize itself and then to provide value add for all the resources that we're looking at right now is renewables. I'm saying this from a very personal point of view. Last year, we commissioned probably the largest dairy processing plant in Nigeria, and it's completely off-grid. We installed 5 megawatts of solar with 5 megawatts of battery, and the entire collection infrastructure spanning 18,000 farmers is all on renewable. This kind of impact or this kind of spread that energy provides in order to transform agro-produce as well as mineral resources can only at this point in time be achieved by renewable energy. So if you look at it from an economic standpoint, we know what climate change is saying, but we actually have a more fundamental need to move into renewable in the coming decades, and that is to transform and provide impact for grassroots people. Thank you.
You know, that's actually, that's a very interesting point. I think I'd actually like to see the panel expand on that, because oftentimes we have this idea that we should cut and paste what has worked with other countries. But in doing so, we're taking ideas from 50 or 100 years ago that may be completely obsolete. So does it make sense for Africa to invest in a Western-style power grid when they could produce the energy much closer to the communities? So is this something that is, do you guys think is realistic? Could we actually be powering communities with renewables without relying on a power grid? So you do solar panels, this is what you do. Is this something that's possible?
I think we need a diversified power mix, right? So there's a role to play for different technologies. You know, you have villages, for example, which typically are not the top priority for a project developer, right? With that, you can have off-grid energy. You leapfrog having to have the power grid go to villages or offshore communities, right? So there's a use case for that. You could have an industrial cluster that has a bunch of different manufacturing and different production facilities that has poor power grid in the area. For that, you can have like a solar embedded sort of grid that evacuates right there and powers the facilities on site, right? So there it makes sense. And then you have some places that have the power grid already in existence, and then you can either use that as is or just brush that up and improve that, you know. So different kind of technologies work. I'll give you an example. You know, when I first became an entrepreneur full-time, right, one of my first projects was trying to raise capital for some of the solar projects in Nigeria that had signed with the government. And these guys needed millions of dollars, right? I tried to do those projects, but we did not have evacuation, which is transmission. So those projects could not have financial close because you need all those things in place and a lot of other requirements for due diligence to actually raise the capital to build those projects and get them to market. So I quickly pivoted and started doing commercial industrial projects, which were with private sector organizations, bilateral agreements with credit-worthy people. And that worked out, right? So, but it took about a year or a year and a half to get that to work, right? So you gotta like figure out what works for every situation, and that's the cleverness involved is like you can't just have a one-size-fits-all approach, because that wouldn't work. Lastly, you know, right before COVID, I had a meeting. It was interesting. I had to go to Abuja. I got stuck in Nigeria for 7 months, right, because the airports were closed. I had a meeting with the then minister about doing a solar farm, which they were interested in, and what kept getting that held up was the transmission. This was going to be a new project that was not part of the original projects that were signed, and everything was fine, but except the transmission. So you need to have certain technology. It's a mix of multiple factors, right? The policy, the legal, the technology, and the commercial to get these projects to pencil out and to work out eventually.
Okay. What do you think on the agricultural side? So if we go to these renewables, to solar panel, how does that fit in with the production of food, the production of livestock. Is this something that is more of like, maybe it'll help a little bit, or can we actually run a farm with renewable energy?
Yeah, actually you can, because there's a complexity in terms of chemistry, the physiological components of vegetative state, and then the conversions by which we can turn them into energy. And most local African farmers, smallholders, are already practicing these kind of activities. In the conversion and the fast-forward moving continent that we believe we're going to achieve turning it into, what will happen is that we have to take some serious questions into stand. One is, what happens to all the smallholders? Let's say a guy makes charcoal. Now I create biochar. That's what I do, right? So I just took him out of business. But we created a new playbook. So what we're doing is creating alliances. To restrict deforestation, we grow something as simple as kenef, which is a subspecies dedicated and connected to industrial hemp. In facilitating this, we're not reducing jobs, but we're creating a more cohesive, repetitious, regenerative action that produces energy. What is the byproduct? Biocrude, which can be either converted to diesel, which we need domestically, we import it, or we can simply convert that to gas. So my belief system is that in response to my colleague there, we do need the facilitation of the solar, we do need the facilitation of all the new technologies that create the restrictions in terms of our dependency. But what we have to think about is that in that action, we have to create jobs and we have to protect infrastructure. What is that infrastructure? Energy is not dependent upon the 1% or the middle percent or whoever that is in terms of the African economy or those who have. What we really have to think about are the drivers. Who really makes money for Africa are those people that we have to protect. So energy fast-forward moving Africa means everyone plays a role. That means if you have a zinc shack and you live in it, we have to ultimately start to think about how we conduct energy for you. Can you afford solar? Perhaps not. Can we give you a boiler with diesel? Maybe that works. Do you use charcoal for energy? 85% of West Africa depends on charcoal. Perhaps the entire continent does. But what has happened is that it affects deforestation. And so I think what happens is that the future, Africa definitely has the position, that is why I'm in the business I'm in, to facilitate these changes, but we cannot afford to leave the small stakeholders out of the picture. And that's, I see that every day with big corporations. I see that every day with a lot of multinationals. Of course, we can do a sugarcane farm that can produce ethanol. But what if we did a sugarcane farm? That's what I do with 10,000 farmers, and each farmer has a 25% stake in an aggregated group. So when I have my returns, I keep 75, I can give 25. In some cases, I give 50. Why? Because we talk about the development, we talk about the advancement, we speak of energy, but we never speak of the people. And so energy equals people, people are revenue, and so everyone plays a role in the future for energy in Africa.
Well, we're talking about infrastructure and the importance of it, particularly with having renewable, green energy. But one of the things that I hear all the time when I look at the Wall Street Journal, I read the news, is that the next infrastructure project in Africa is going to be run by Russia. It will be run by China. It will be run by Turkey. So we have an expert here on actually building these projects. And I want to know is, can African infrastructure be built by Africans, and can it be built better than what we're seeing right now from China, from Russia, from Turkey? Can they do it better and more efficiently? So I want to go to the end of the table. What are your thoughts?
Coming from the construction projects, this is dear to me. Even as of today, with all what you are seeing as a built environment, we are going to actually double the footprint of whatever we see as built environment in next 20 years. So what all we build in hundreds of years, it will be doubled up. More cities, more airports, more rail, more apartments and everything. Do we do this efficiently? No. Even as of today, the construction projects have 30% wastage built into it. So it's not that in America we are doing a great job, or in Canada or overseas. If we can reduce the wastage, rework, interruptions, and all that, that itself is a big savings. Can we do this better? Yes, because Africa can build better by themselves. The engineers who are working in Lagos or from Kenya, they themselves are bright people. If we are putting them in a strong guided framework, which helps reduce wastage and interruptions and inefficiencies in construction projects. Imagine a 100-story apartment, 30 stories should have been given for free. That much wastage is what we have. So there are now methods available where right from your design, what are the sustainable aspects in your design? When you're going to build it, what is your carbon footprint during building it? And of course, when you operate it, then it has a carbon footprint. These considerations can be now bought in the next project that Africa wants to undertake, and it doesn't need anybody from elsewhere. They can do it themselves.
Outstanding, outstanding. Now, one of the other things that we sit there, we do the math for solar, for renewables, and oftentimes we find that solar really, it's not just something because it's green, it's the most efficient solution. So I want to ask our solar panel expert right here, what is the big challenge? What is holding Africa back from fully embracing solar as part of that mix? And what can we do to make sure that Africa energy production is as efficient as possible?
Thank you. So I think solar has benefited from pretty good uptake in Africa. We have a lot of resources. We have gas as well. Gas is a great source of energy. It's much cleaner than most sources, so that's also good. But when you look at solar, I think part of the help needed on solar is just the customer, the marketing aspect of it. A lot of folks think that they're going to have a 10-story building with 100 air-conditioned units, and then they're going to have solar on, and then their roof is so tiny to put the solar panels on. Obviously, that's like the extreme scenario, right? But the point is, solar works very optimally in some instances, and other instances, you need another source of energy. So I think part of that is the education. The other part is the development. So having the right companies develop solar projects such that those solar projects make sense. The first metric really is the cost savings. How much are you saving, right? You look at the alternative sources of energy. The first one is the power grid. In Nigeria, there's a subsidized power grid, and that's changing. And so to compete with something that's subsidized is pretty tough, right? So solar is now becoming more competitive because the subsidies are going away. The bailouts to the power distribution companies are going away. And so solar has become more competitive. Also, in Nigeria, a lot of the generation is based on generators, right? So you have, in businesses, you have diesel generators. Residential or SMEs, you have petrol generators, right? And so petrol subsidy has gone, but I just read today that I think it's kind of back. I don't know. I'm not sure what's going on. But either way, you have essentially, when market forces sort of occur and subsidies get removed, you then start seeing what's more economic and what's not. And we're starting to see a theme where solar is becoming a lot more competitive. In the U.S., which where I started my energy career, you don't really have a lot of subsidies here. I mean, you do have some hidden ones for like hydrocarbons, oil and gas, but generally you have competitive markets in 2/3 of the states in the U.S., and you have a situation where solar makes a lot of sense. Nuclear makes a lot of sense too, but gas power is driven by the world price, which is driven by supply. When you look at what happened in Ukraine, what's still going on in Ukraine, obviously you saw a lot of price spikes across the board. And we as consumers, at least in the US market construct, we don't get impacted by gas prices immediately from electricity. We do though for the car, for pumping fuel in the car. But for power, we really don't. And so you see solar start to shine through. Solar in the US is now about 10%. We have renewables about 22% in the US, primarily solar and wind. And so when you start removing subsidies and start seeing the true cost savings and impact solar starts to shine through a lot more. Lastly, one thing I would add is for commercial enterprises, industrial users, the best case scenario kind of solar customer will be a large industrial that has a really large roof that can be leveraged for solar. Essentially a solar farm on the roof, right? So that helps you offset all your other expensive sources of energy, and solar becomes what helps you drive. You look at your income statement, that helps you drive your financials because now your power bill has been slashed into half. And we've experienced that with a lot of our customers, especially in Nigeria with their generators. We've got banks, hospitals, and a lot of these folks were using generators, but now they're using solar, and it's been working out very fine for them. So we're going to see more of that going forward, I think.
All right. Well, guys, I have time for one last question. So the Q&A, we'll do that outside. So now, I want to wrap this up because we got a lot of people who are in business. We have a lot of people who I just know they are not going to sit out there being too flashy, but they've got sizable businesses. And I want you to just real quickly say a little bit about what your company could do. Keep it like 30, 60 seconds. When should someone call you? Who should call you? How can you help them? Elevator pitch. So let me start there and work our way over.
Okay. Two things I want to quickly say. One, that if you want to build something and you want to know that it gets done on time and within the budget, and there are no surprises, that's when things will get complicated, then you come to us. But more importantly, the other agenda item is women in construction. Digital technology allows to level the playing field in a great extent. I want to also engage with the community, the society, and the educational institutes who want the greater participation in construction projects. We would be happy to work with that.
Perfect. The amazing, I know your company is awesome, but I don't want me to tell everyone how awesome it is. I want you to tell everybody. So,
Thank you. For us, it's simple. It's just power, right? Everyone uses power, so we help you get durable power that's uninterruptible. It's low cost, it's green, it's great for the environment, it's great for your business branding. We've done this here in the US, we've done this in Nigeria. Customers include banks, the US Embassy, hospitals, boarding schools. Anyone who uses a lot of power and need it for your company to function, give us a call. Thank you.
perfect.
So I'm not really going to do a pitch of my company, but what I'm going to say is we at Sebore Farms believe that our model is probably going to be at the vanguard of the industrial revolution that happens in agriculture in Nigeria. The reason being is every facet that we believe has the potential to create wealth, to inclusive wealth, attract youth, and provide value for both Nigeria and the world is being encapsulated within the Sebore project. What I mean by this is Sebore right now integrates subsistence farmers, we power renewable, we lean on women within our dairy program. We also believe that the renewable serves as the backbone of the entire thing. I do not believe renewable in itself is the end state. What does decentralized clean power do to an economy of young people, of over 100 million people below the age of 18? That potential is what we should be looking at, and not just the clean part. We believe that the Sebore model, which works in very remote areas and can provide energy access in a very cheap way, is probably going to be at the vanguard of how Africa as a continent starts to convert their wealth, their abundant wealth, into riches. Thank you.
Perfect. And your closing thoughts?
Sure. I think that I agree with my colleagues on the side of the panel here. What we really do is very simple. We work with small stakeholders at scale because we have better quality. I believe that regenerative agriculture plays a role in energy, and we see that change every day. I agree in terms of the youth. They play a key role. We're looking at ways in which we can create a different kind of company. Most companies make a profit, and then the people work. What has to happen in Africa specifically in the energy sector, is simple. We make a lot of money in the energy sector. So what we have to do is we have to share it. That's how I would close. My company is about the people.
Well, let's hear it for these panelists. This is absolutely, it's very humbling to be able to share the stage with you guys. Thank you so much for your insight. Getting any one of you into a meeting would be humbling. Getting all four of you at the same time, that's incredible. So we do got to close this up, guys. I'm going to turn it back over to our host for the evening and turn it back to his capable hands.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great job. Thank you so much. As usual, we need to take a photograph. I need everybody seated. Don't move. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. Please, another round of applause for the panel. Thank you very much. Can you grab this?